Consider the following object. A cup of coffee. It is 7:14 in the morning, in a kitchen, in a city that, for the next 90 seconds, will continue to exist. The person holding the cup is 41 years old. He is thinking about a meeting at 10. He is thinking about whether he remembered to send an email. He is not thinking about the sky. There is no reason he should be thinking about the sky. The sky has not done anything yet. The object that is going to end this Tuesday is not, in any meaningful sense, a weapon. It is a piece of tungsten, roughly the mass of a fully loaded semi-truck. It has no warhead, no payload, no guidance system worth mentioning. It does not need them. It is moving at 99.9% of the speed of light. At that velocity, the kinetic energy stored in this single piece of metal exceeds the yield of every nuclear weapon ever detonated by humans. Combined, multiplied by a number that is not worth writing down, because the difference between 10,000 and 10 million stops being meaningful at this scale. It is, mathematically speaking, a small sun on a one-way trip. It was launched 412 years ago from a star system whose name we do not have, because we will never know it existed. The civilization that built it is, by our standards, not advanced. They have not solved death. They have not solved consciousness. They have solved one problem and one problem only: how to throw a rock very, very hard. They threw it in our direction for reasons that, from our perspective, do not matter. Reasons are a luxury of survivors. In 1950, a physicist named Enrico Fermi was eating lunch with colleagues at Los Alamos. They were discussing the galaxy. The galaxy is, by any reasonable estimate, very old, very large, and full of stars that are, on average, billions of years older than ours. If even a small fraction of those stars produced life, and even a small fraction of that life produced technology, the galaxy should be loud, saturated, crowded with signals, with probes, with industry. Fermi listened. Then he asked the question that has not been answered in 76 years. Where is everybody? One answer, not the only one, but the one that is relevant to a cup of coffee in a kitchen in a city that will not exist in 90 seconds, is called the dark forest. The hypothesis is simple. The galaxy is not empty. It is silent. Every civilization in the forest understands two facts. The first, any other civilization may, given enough time, become powerful enough to destroy them. The second, there is no way to verify the intentions of a stranger across distances measured in light years, where every message is at least decades out of date by the time it arrives. Given these two facts, the rational strategy is not diplomacy. Diplomacy requires trust. Trust requires time. Time, at interstellar scales, is the one resource no one has. The rational strategy is to remain silent. And, on the rare occasions when another fire is spotted in the forest, to put it out before it grows. Humans have been broadcasting for approximately 100 years. Radio, television, radar. The Arecibo message, sent in 1974, explicitly announcing our existence, our location, and our biochemistry to anything that might be listening. The sphere of our broadcasts is now roughly 100 light-years across. It contains, depending on the estimate, somewhere between 10,000 and 100,000 star systems. We have been, by the terms of the forest, screaming. The object is now 400,000 kilometers from Earth, roughly the distance of the Moon. At its current velocity, this distance will be crossed in 1 1/3 seconds. No instrument on Earth will detect it. The light reflected from its surface is traveling at the same speed as the object itself. The two will arrive together. There is no advance warning because there cannot be one. The geometry forbids it. In the kitchen, the coffee is at 61 degrees Celsius. The man takes a second sip.
The impact occurs in the upper atmosphere above a point in the Indian Ocean, approximately 600 kilometers south of Sri Lanka. The object does not strike the ocean. It strikes the air, and the air at this velocity behaves like solid rock. The energy of the collision is released in a column 8 kilometers wide and 90 kilometers tall. The atmosphere within this column ceases to be atmosphere. It becomes plasma. The plasma is hotter than the surface of the sun by a factor of approximately 40.
The shockwave reaches the sea floor in less than a second and continues into the crust. The Indian plate, which has been migrating north at approximately 5 centimeters per year for the last 50 million years, is removed from the geological record in under 4 seconds. The oceans do not boil. Boiling is a process. There is no time for processes. The water that was an ocean is now hydrogen and oxygen, separated, moving outward at velocities the laws of fluid dynamics no longer have jurisdiction over. The atmosphere on the night side of the planet ignites. Not chemically. The air does not burn. It is simply heated by radiation from the impact site, past the temperature at which atoms can hold their electrons. The Earth is now, briefly, a star. Return for a moment to the kitchen. The man in the kitchen did not see a flash. The optical nerve transmits signals at approximately 100 meters per second. The kinetic event reached the kitchen, through the crust and the mantle and the atmosphere, in a small fraction of that time. There was no flash. There was no sound. There was no last thought. The transition from him to not him occurred in a window narrower than the firing of a single neuron. He did not die. Death is a process. There was no time for a process. He stopped. From the perspective of the civilization that launched the object, nothing of note has occurred. The trajectory was calculated 4 centuries ago. The verification signal would arrive in another 4. By then, the engineers who performed the calculation will be long dead, replaced by other engineers performing other calculations. They did not hate us. They never knew our name. They did not look up our biochemistry, our music, our wars, our cup of coffee. They had detected a fire in the forest. They put it out. They moved on. The forest is quiet again. There is one inference, and only one, that can be drawn from the silence of the sky. Either we are alone, in which case the universe is older and emptier than any horror we have invented, or we are not, in which case the silence is the warning, and we have spent the last 100 years ignoring it. Either answer is the same answer. Be quiet.